Appreciate you streaming in here on Birds 365, a hangout morning, and we got Les Bowen coming to us from an Airbnb. Johnny Mac, have we ever had a guest on from an Airbnb before?
I don't know. I've never asked, so I probably wouldn't ask Les. I would assume maybe he's at a relative's house, so you never know. But a lot of people use Airbnb now, so I'm sure we have. I
don't know if we
but
have.
Les being first
he
is not.
could be a groundbreaker here.
He's always a groundbreaker. He's always a groundbreaker. Now, can we say, Les, right off the bat, you're going to be helping someone with writing, or is that
yeah, that's it's not a secret. I'll be on the all PHLY website here and there with my really unimportant musings, but they asked me to do it, and I'm not doing much, so yeah, I'm going to be starting the 15th. I think right around the 15th I'll have something up there, and I'm excited about it.
I think it'll be draft. Yeah, nice. Yeah, we get to hear Les Bowen's music. We still got to see him at Les Bowen's John, but PHLY, our good buddies Zach Berman, Bo Wolf, Eagles coverage, Les Bowen. That's a murderer's row right there. And then you get Anthony Gargano, our buddy, as well. So congrats, Les. Good to see.
Well, thank you.
You'll be writing, and I don't want you to spoil what you're going to be writing about first. I assume it's draft related.
It's got to. I haven't really given it a whole lot of thought, but it'll be draft related. We're getting real close. It's been blissfully. It's been good to be in Texas this week because I haven't really had to obsess over the Eagles. I haven't. I've been kind of removed from all the hoopla. I know Fletcher Cox had a nice retirement press conference.
Stop by the ranch in Texas. If you get to Fletcher's ranch,
that's a good thought. Yeah, I don't know exactly where that is, but this whole deal. I have a son, Matt. He and Claire live in Denver, and they had suggested a long way back that they could drive down from Denver and we could fly out from Philly and see the Eclipse here. Nice. And so we did that. It was a little more of an adventure than we'd planned in that we chose, or Matt chose, this area because it was the least likely in the entire path of totality to have cloud cover on Eclipse Day. Well, of course, what happened?
Yeah,
it was. We drove about 3 hours west to Junction, Texas, where they you remember the Junction Boys, the movie and book, the Bear Bryant.
Bear Bryant, yep.
Yeah. So Junction, Texas, very small place actually, but a nice little park they have there by the river. And we did see it. It was kind of in and out of clouds. We didn't, in a perfect world, we'd have had the full 3 minutes of totality. We had a few fleeting seconds when the sun wasn't, behind a cloud, but we did it, and it was fun. And we got to spend time with Matt and Claire. We're heading out today. They're driving back to Denver. We're going up to Dallas and having dinner with a friend and flying home tomorrow. Nice. But, it's been a great trip. It's been good. We don't get to see them as much as we'd like, so it's been cool.
Nice. I assume everyone was protected. I don't want to hear about any eyesight.
Oh, no. My son is we have the best Eclipse glasses, you could possibly buy.
Nice.
Of course, we'll never use them again, but,
When's the next one? 2026 already, right?
No.
It depends on where you are. I mean, you can go, apparently, in a few years, you can go to Australia and see one.
Oh, Australia, okay.
In terms of seeing one in the U.S., I think it's going to be a long
I think it's 44 years from now.
Yeah.
And
well, you can go to Australia in 2026.
True.
Yeah.
I could, yes.
But Les is not getting a refund for his flight from Texas because the clouds are out. Good luck trying to get that, Les. You're not going to get that in Australia. It's going to be a lot more expensive.
By the way, sorry, guys. Big breaking news.
Uh-oh.
And Jody wins this one. The Eagles will play the Packers in São Paulo, Brazil on September 6th. Opening.
Yeah, because see, and John, you were basing it on Jeff Lurie having more say than I thought he was going to. The NFL was going to make that call.
Yeah.
When the Eagles signed off on it, the NFL was going to make that call, and it's the first game of the year, and the Packers have the good young quarterback, and they're considered a contender again. That was going to be the choice over an interconference game. That's
Well, I think Jeffrey and Les, if you think about it, the Packers and Jordan Love coming off last season, how good they were down the stretch. Theory, that could hurt the Eagles in the playoff hunts. If the Packers are a contender and you have a home game that's now in Sao Paulo, Brazil, if they win, it doesn't matter. But if they lose, you're going to hear that pop up, I would think.
You certainly will. There's no doubt about it. I was thinking for just a second there, I was thinking, well, if it was a road game, I'd probably rather go to Sao Paulo than Green Bay. But, and it might be easier to get there from Philly.
Slightly easy. In winter,
right. And here's the reason why I would shoot down an Eagle fan who would say that. The Eagles are the better warm weather team than the Packers. There aren't too many teams you could say the Eagles are a better warm weather team but the Packers may be one of them. And if you're going to play in warm weather, you might as well make it Brazil in September, right? Get them sweating, get them working. We don't know the Packers can handle that. It might be advantageous for the Eagles.
I like the international games. I have to say that. I think Eagles fans enjoy going to these things. I think it grows the game. London was a tremendous experience for me. Now, what was not tremendous was the Wembley Stadium surface, which contributed to some injuries. And you kind of worry about that with any of these international games. But I do think it was, and Jeffrey Lurie, you mentioned Jeffrey, he's come up, he's done a 180 on all this.
Yeah, he really
for years,
has.
The Eagles made sure it was like being on Hard Knocks for them. They did not want any part of an international game. And now they're like, we'll lead the way here. We'll go there. We'll go there. I think the London experience kind of opened Jeffrey's eyes to what that could be. And I don't know anything about fandom in Brazil, but I do know that when they went to London, people would stop me on the street, not so much people who had traveled for the game, but Eagles fans who had moved to London. There's a whole bunch of them, people who live in London from the Philly area, just like there are people in Florida from the Philly area and California. There's a good bit of, everywhere you go, there are people from Philly. And it was, I came away from it thinking they should do this more. So I can't really complain too much about the Sao Paulo game.
All right, Les, I got a question for you you'll really appreciate because you can't get it wrong because it's based on how you want to shape your opinion. Who's the best defensive tackle to ever play for the Philadelphia Eagles? Fletcher Cox or Jerome Brown?
Jerome had such a short career. Jerome was, and Fletcher had a better career because he lived.
Right. So I should really adjust my question. I'll get more specific with my question. At the height of their career, who was a better player, Jerome Brown or Fletcher Cox?
Jerome was more of a disruptor. He was with Fletch. A lot of times, what he was doing was taking up the double team so other people could make plays. Jerome just threw the double team aside and made plays. That having been said, I would give Jerome a slight edge, but I would also note that he played with such an incredible group of defensive linemen that he benefited from that as well. Could you really double Jerome a lot with Reggie White and Clyde Simmons wandering around out there? I would have to give a slight edge to Jerome at the height of his career, but Fletcher certainly had a longer and more,
obviously
more stats career-wise.
Is Fletcher? We know he's an Eagles Hall of Famer. Is he a Pro Football Hall of Famer, Les?
Well, that's really a Paul Domowitch question because he's the voter.
We're getting him up on Friday.
We're going to ask.
We'll hold his feet to the
but
fire
I want to hear Les Bowen as well. I think he's a Hall of Famer. I think he's a Hall of Famer.
To me, I think he is, but it's like all halls of fame. You look at who gets in and who it doesn't, and there's things that you just don't understand, that don't seem to make sense. There was a while there when the teams that won several Super Bowls, if you ever played for one of those teams, you were in the Hall of Fame. And,
yeah.
I would think he is, personally, but I will have to see.
Yeah. I think it's always interesting, but I think that's a sort of a high profile position. We always talk about first ballot. I don't think he's first ballot. I think it'll take a while, but I think ultimately he lands in Canton, and I think deservedly so. But we got to see Fletcher and his family yesterday make it official as far as the retirement. I get the feeling, and it's just a feeling, nothing concrete, but I think part of the reason Fletcher's walking away is because he doesn't want that reduced role that maybe Brandon Graham embraced. I think he's still got gas left in the tank, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I was a little surprised that he did retire, frankly, because I thought he had a pretty good year, and I don't think Brandon has a whole lot left in the tank, frankly. I do think Fletcher has more. And you might very well be right. That hadn't occurred to me, but, and also the money. I think Brandon's just kind of taking almost a token sum to play this year. And I don't think that's ever been Fletcher's MO, But, it's these retirements are obviously a huge deal for the Eagles. And whatever they do in the draft and whatever they've done in free agency and however they reconfigure their team between now and September, not having Fletcher Cox, not having Jason Kelsey, leadership wise and on the playing field, is going to be a big deal. It really is going to be a big deal. And I'll be surprised if it's not something that we're talking about during the season, when problems come up.
And problems being both production on the field and potentially in the locker room.
Yeah.
And I'm with you, Les. That scares me. I think they lost two very big leaders. And when it became well known that both Fletcher and Jason Kelsey were going to step away, I said, I was going to be the defensive line. What was the first name I came up with? Oh, I think Hassan Reddick might be able to carry that load. Oh, shoot. He's not here either. Damn. Right. They didn't. I do think that's a potential issue for this upcoming season. All right. You're down there in the Lone Star State. Have the whispers gotten to wherever you're at that Micah Parsons is making waves in that Cowboy locker room?
Yeah.
And that they have issues. And there's a talk show host in Dallas that's saying everybody's telling him that Micah's wearing thin in Dallas. I tried this the other day and McMullen couldn't shoot me down fast enough. He always talks about the Eagles. Michael Parsons might be willing to twist some arms to get himself to Philadelphia. Percentage chance.
There's no way Jerry Jones is trading Micah Parsons.
It's a zero. You're not even going to give me 0.1% chance he lands with the Eagles.
Yeah.
I don't dispute that he might be wearing thin in Dallas. I think he's a guy who is very outspoken, and they've had an off season that I don't think their fans are very happy with. They're in a very bizarre position. I thought they had an excellent team last season. I thought they had a lot of stuff.
They did have an excellent team. They can't figure it out.
They just flopped in the playoffs again, like they always do. And they don't, unless you're just going to tear it down and start over, they don't have a lot of answers there. There's not like they needed to do something in free agency that would make their team so much better. But they do have, what has happened is because they haven't handled the cap very well, they've had losses this offseason. And, they might not be as good this year. They're doing this thing with Dak Prescott, where they're just kind of doing what Eagles fans, some Eagles fans would think the Eagles are doing with Nick Sirianni, where it's like, okay, Dak, go out and win the Super Bowl this year. If you don't, see ya. Yeah. That rarely works out, in sports, I think. So we'll have to see about Dallas. But if Micah Parsons goes somewhere, the last place he would go,
last place
would be the Eagles. Unfortunately, I mean, he's a wonderful player. That would be a great thing. But no, they would not ever do that. I mean, there have been trades between the
dream
teams,
the dream,
not
though,
with,
if you're an Eagle fan. I'm trying to put some good vibes into the Eagles here. I think they took a couple steps back with the Hassan Reddick trade. You get your hands on Micah Parsons. See you later, Hassan. Have a good time up the turnpike.
Oh, yeah, sure, absolutely. Yes,
that one.
Certainly, yeah.
Now, you bring up Nick. It's interesting. Saw Nick yesterday. Kevin Patullo attached at the hip. Aaron Moorhead was there. It was a bunch of offensive guys. Stout was there. Fletcher's retirement, because all the defensive guys are new, I guess.
Yeah.
But this does not look like a good setup to be, Les, from the outside looking in. I mean, I see a lame duck. Is there any way to look at this and say Nick Sirianni isn't coaching for his job this year? And I don't think that usually ends well.
Yeah, I don't know of any other way to look at it. And you're right, it does not. The only time I've really been through it was with Andy Reid, and it was a disaster. Maybe it won't be, but they're going to have a good team, I think. But I've said before, people probably get tired of hearing me say it. I've never seen a collapse like that over an extended period of time in which the coach didn't get fired. It just doesn't happen. It happened with Doug Peterson. It happened with Chip. It happened with Andy. And this guy survived it because I guess they thought that he wasn't the problem, maybe, or that, changing coaches so quickly would be a black mark against the organization.
Is he a better politician? You bring up Doug, like Doug. At the end, Doug just said, "You know what? I'm tired of this. I want Press Taylor. I want Matt Burke or Corey Unlin," and said, "That's it. I'm not going to go down this route anymore."
Right.
Whereas, there's this back and forth. Well, who fired who? And Nick's pretty concrete. And I believe him. He fired these people. He hired these people. Blah blah blah. But I also think he's smart enough to read the room. So if he came into Jeffrey Lurie's office and said, "I'm keeping Brian Johnson," that would have went over well. So it doesn't really matter who made the decision. I think he's a better politician. Do you see it that way?
Yeah, I do. I think he's had a more circuitous route to this job than Doug had. Doug had really only worked for Andy when Doug was hired by the Eagles. And Doug wasn't one of these guys who had coached in a bunch of different organizations. And I do think Nick is more. Nick knew going into that meeting that, he had to do some things, and he was certainly willing to do them, whereas Doug was not. You're right. Doug could have kept his job, but he did not want to go along with the changes that the organization wanted. I think Nick's relationship is different certainly with Howie. I don't know about Jeffrey, but I think Nick and I thought the Super Bowl year, that Nick and Howie are kind of buddies. I think that this is the first coach Howie has ever had who really kind of liked Howie and felt.
Are you suggesting laughs at his jokes? Because Howie likes to think of himself as a jokester.
Yeah.
And Nick
Nick is a little awkward too in some senses, and I do think they're about the same. They're similar age, and I just think they're two guys that get along pretty well most of the time. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but whereas I don't think Doug was ever, Doug never really, warmed up that way with Howie.
By the way, Les, you bring up, I think one of the dumbest criticisms anyone ever hurled at Doug Peterson was, well, he only coached with Andy. Why would you leave Andy? I would hear all these things of, oh, well, Nick knows more people because he got fired a bunch of times. That makes no sense to me. And you go around with different staffs. If you got the best coach, stick with him.
Right.
And then you turn into a head
I wouldn't
coach.
necessarily see it as a criticism, but I would see it as something that would limit your viewpoint a little bit.
Probably.
In having not been in a lot of different situations with different people. And also perhaps limit your field of interviewees for coaching positions,
but he also played 13 years in the NFL.
Yeah,
it's not like
for several different teams. He had to know people just as a player, not as a coach.
That's very true. That is very true. Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, tangent, but it always struck me as a weird criticism that you would want to leave Andy Reid.
That's a very good point.
We don't want to keep you any longer. We already have our first Airbnb guest, and we appreciate you for that. Wow. The new stuff they're going to be doing for PHLY. Is it going to be on a specific date? Is it going to be when the spirit moves you? When can fans be looking for it?
That's a good point. We really haven't. I think my first one will be up around April 15th. And after that, we'll kind of just see how it goes, I guess.
Okay.
They've kind of left it open-ended for me. I'm not on the contract doesn't say that I have to do it every 2 days or 4 days or anything like that. But I'm hoping we get good response and that, it's something that I know they do a lot of podcasting, like, you guys do, and I think they want to get more written content on their site, and I'm excited. Like I said, I think it's going to be an interesting enterprise, and I'll be working with good people, and certainly want to still be coming on with you guys.
Well, we're going to continue to have you on. No, that's the case. The taskmasters we work for, they expect to show up every day at 8:00. They don't give us the flexibility that you got, Les. I'll do it when I do it. Whenever Anthony tells me to do something, I'll get something done. No, they make us show up at the same time every single day. We appreciate it. When you do jump in with us, congrats on the new gig. Thank you very much for saying you'll continue to stay loyal to us here on Birds 365. No, we're going to have you back on again.
Great. Good to talk to you guys. Take care.
Our
Thanks,
pleasure.
Les.
Live from the Airbnb.
Yeah, I really don't see the eclipse for at least a little bit. I didn't get to see it. Did you get to see it at all?
No, my daughter warned me before. She said, don't go outside because you're an idiot. You'll take off the glasses and you'll burn your eyes. So I paid attention to what my daughter told me to do. I watch it. If you got a 68-inch flat screen TV in high def, why the hell do you have to go outside? You can see it better right there on the TV.
Well, as Les points out, last chance to see one. So, here again, you can go to Australia in a couple of years. But
you do that, Johnny Mac. Yeah. I won't be going down under anytime soon. What we're going to do is go to our last break, come back, put a bow on the show. In case you're just tuning in, Johnny Mac breaking news during the show. Eagles Packers will kick off the season in Brazil. We got a whole bunch to do draft wise, continue free agent wise before we get to it. But we know where the Eagles are starting. Come back, talk about that a little bit here on Birds 365.